Hi everyone, in this tutorial we're gonna identify the hospitals in Ohio that are within particular distance of active solid waste sites in this state. This is an example of a spatial analysis in environmental health. So from lab 5 folder, load the whole data set in lab 5 folder. So connect to lab 5, GIS lab 5. So here we have three shape files. We have administrative boundaries of Ohio at the county level. So we obtained the data from the Tigerline website. We also have the location of hospitals in Ohio, which has been obtained from Homeland Infrastructure Foundation level data, HIFLD. So these are the location of hospitals in Ohio, and also we have solid waste sites in Ohio which obtained from the same organization, so Homeland Infrastructure Foundation level data. So let's add this data into ArcMap. So in the first step, I think it's better to change the color of the symbol, maybe to red, the solid waste sites to red. So we have to create multiple ring buffer around the solid waste sites, and buffers are regions or areas around particular features. So in this case, a buffer is an area around solid waste sites. So once you create buffer around these points, these red points, it will generate some circles and around this point. So we're gonna make buffers at multiple distances, at three distances: 1 mile, 1.5 miles, and 2 miles around the solid waste sites in Ohio. For this purpose, let's open up your Arc toolbox and then expand analysis tools, proximity, and here you can create a buffer or multiple ring buffer. So buffer means you can create only a single buffer, a single circle around these red points, around the solid waste points, or multiple ring buffer. It creates several circles at multiple distances with the center of the solid waste sites. So we're gonna make buffer at 1 mile, 1.5, and 2 miles around the solid waste site. So we select multiple ring buffer. So in this window we have to tell what is the input feature. So input your feature class that is going to be buffered is solid waste site. So you can select it from here, or you can drag and drop here, solid waste sites. So this multiple ring buffer will generate a new shape file into the table of content. So we have to tell ArcMap what is the output feature class, the name of it, and where we want to save the data. So this default is very difficult to find in the future, default path. So let's go to the lab 5 folder and type buff _ solid waste. So it's a buffer around the solid waste, right? So click save, and here we have to specify what is the distance around the solid waste. So we're gonna make a buffer with distance of the 1 miles, and then you need to hit this black plus sign. Okay, so it will be added here. 1.5 mile and 2 miles. So then we have to tell the unit of the buffer. It can be centimeter, feet, inches, kilometer, miles. So we're gonna make 1, 1.5, and 2 miles, right? So we select miles. So again, this process generates a new shape file in the table of content, and here and also it generates a field with the name of distance. So you can change the name of it. For example, if you want, you can change this to distance. And the last option is dissolve option. Dissolve option means when the buffers overlap, whether they will be merged into a single buffer or not. If you select all, they will be merged. If you do not select all, so it will generate some single buffer or single features. The features are not just one feature. So if you Google dissolve GIS and then click image, so this is the dissolve buffer for GIS. So here you can see we can create buffer around point feature, line feature, or polygon feature. If you select dissolve type none, so after it creates a buffer or region around the point, so these features are different features, okay? So the colors are different, right? And also here you can see the colors are different. But when you select dissolve type all, so when they overlap, they kind of aggregate it, and also all of them are just one feature, okay? So you can see the color is just one color around it. So we're gonna make only one feature, okay? So all of these buffers are only one feature on the map. So let's select dissolve option all and then hit OK. So you need to wait for a couple of minutes because this is a huge process. Okay, so now we can see the process has been successfully done and we don't need our toolbox anymore. So let's close it and also close this one. So in the table of content, you can see a feature class has been added with the name of buffer solid base. If you open up the attribute table, you can see it's only created. I don't know why it's more than 3. So you can merge these two buffers. So 1.5 and 1.5, they are the same. So maybe for you is different, but it should be only 3 buffers, 1, 1.5, and 2. So we have to, if this case happened to you, you have to merge these 1.5 lines, 1.5 distances. You have to select these two, and then from here, if you select editor and start editing, we're gonna merge these two features, okay? So from the editor, so if you select merge and then click OK, so you can see that these two features have been merged into just one feature. And also for these two features, because this is 2 miles and also these features also are 2 miles, so they are the same. So you have to select them and then editor and then click on merge and OK. And after that, editor, stop editing and save the results. So now you have 3 buffers, okay? 1 miles, 1.5, and 2 miles. So you can also see that a new field has been added to your with the name of distance. I don't know why it's not uppercase, but a new field has been added to your output feature class with the name of distance, right? So where are the buffers? So these are the buffers, but if they are very small because it's only 1 mile in the for the whole state of the Ohio. So to better see the buffers, you have to zoom in several times. You can see there are some buffers around the solid waste site, okay, these red points. And this, let's change the color for the counties to hollow. So this is area around the point, around the solid waste, 1 miles around it, between 1 and 1.5, and between 1.5 and 2 miles around the solid waste, okay? So that's the generated buffer. So we're gonna select all of the hospitals that are within the buffers, that are within each of these buffers, okay? For example, you can see here we have, so for this one, so we have several hospitals. So these blue points are hospitals, right? So we have several hospitals that are within 1 mile of the solid waste site. So we're gonna select the hospitals for each buffer. So first of all, you have to open up the attribute table of the buffer and then select the first record or which is 1 mile buffer. So this highlighted 1 mile buffer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select all of the hospitals that are within this 1 mile buffer. For example, like these 2 hospitals. Okay. So how we can do that? We need to use select by location function. Okay. So we already have worked with the select by attributes. It was when we wanted to select some attributes based on some attribute information or description, we could use select by attribute. But here is the relationship between 2 features, the spatial relationship. So we have to use select by location. And in this window, we're gonna select what? We're gonna select the hospitals. So check the hospitals, and based on which fields that are within the buffer, right? So we have to select the buffer solid waste here, and only not for the entire buffer, only the selected buffers. Use the selected feature, and here the selection method should be select all of the hospitals that are completely within this buffer, right? So we have to select are completely contain or completely within the source layer. Okay, and then hit apply, and okay, so you can see that it has selected these two hospitals, right? And also if you open up the attribute table, you can better see the results for the hospitals, which hospital has been added. We can see 8 hospitals are within 1 mile of the solid waste site. If you click show only selected records and then click on that, you can see this hospital, this one, and so you can see the results. Okay, so what we're gonna do is that we have to say that these hospitals are at higher risk or higher exposure to the pollution of the solid waste site, right? So first of all, we need to export all of these hospitals and then call them high risk. Okay, so data, export data only from selected hospitals, and then in lab 5 folder with the name of high risk, and save as type shapefile, save, and okay, and then click clear selection, and now we can change the color of this, for example, and symbol of this to hospital. So it's searching within the database that already existed in the ArcMap. So for example, this one hospital, but with the name of, with the color of red to show that this one is higher risk of exposure. Okay, so click OK. So these areas are high risk hospitals. Okay, these are, so we can easily identify using the GIS. You can easily identify which hospitals are at higher risk of exposure to the solid waste sites. So the next one, we have to repeat this process for the 1.5 miles buffer. So selection, so first you have to select the 1.5 mile. So these are 1.5 miles, okay, between these 2 lines. And then selection, select by location, select all of the hospitals that are within the solid waste. You selected feature are completely within, so apply and okay. So you can see, for example, so all of these hospitals that are within, you can see this one are not selected, but only within the between 1 and 1.5. And after that, you have to write down the number of the hospitals that are selected. So how many hospitals are within 1 and 1.5 miles? It's 17 hospitals out of 290. So then you need to export these hospitals at medium risk. Okay, and then shapefile and save. Okay. change the color of this to, I don't know, blue. And hospital. This one is okay. And the size is very big, maybe 13. And also for this one also. Okay, clear selection, full extent. So some hospitals at very high risk, some hospitals are within 1 and 1.5. And what's next? We have to repeat this process, select by location, hospitals, but first of all we have to select the 2 miles hospital. So you can see these are all of the hospitals. So this is the buffer between 1.5 and 2, okay? And then selection, select by location, everything is good, apply, and okay. So what happened? So you have to always check that you have done the result, you have done your work properly. So you can see all of the hospitals that are within this and see how many buffers, 2 and 25, how many hospitals, 25 hospitals are within this buffer. And after that, exports and type low risk, low underscore risk, and okay. Can change the color of this to, first of all, select hospital, with the color of green, and also size of 13. Okay, clear selection. So now you can remove the buffer and change the, also for the, we can also remove the solid waste site and only select the hospitals. But here maybe we can use white circles. So here we can use white circles and then click OK. So this means that these are not at the risk of, so these are location of the hospitals that are not at risk of exposure. Just 13, right? So the same size of the other hospitals, or maybe less than that, 7. Okay, so these are the location of the hospitals in Ohio. And if you, for example, change the color to beige, or this one, so here you can see, so this is the map that we're looking for. So location of the hospitals, and also we have hospitals that are higher risk, medium risk, and low risk of the exposure to the solid waste site. So if you go to the layout view and then full extent, so okay, put a title for here, and then so when you export it, it will be better, but it's not really clear on this one. Maybe you can change the orientation to landscape, then zoom to layer. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna also add the location of the solid waste sites as an inset map here. Okay, so insert a new data frame, and in here, in this data frame, I'm gonna add the counties and also the solid waste sites, so to see the where are the solid waste sites in Ohio. So these are the so why I can't see the solid waste is because it's under the counties. So now, so here are the location of the solid waste sites. So you need to add, for example, insert a title, solid waste site, So this will be added to, this is for this map. Okay. Let me add a white background for it. Edit symbol. Okay, so if you go to the mask tab and then hollow, you can add the white background for the solid waste site. So these are the location of solid waste sites and also location of the hospitals. Again, I think it's better to make this map larger. Okay, and then remove the frame around it. Maybe it's a better idea if I remove the border around the frame. And so you need to also add the legend for these hospitals. Okay, so maybe it's better to increase the size of the hospitals. Not yes. So these are the location of hospitals. So let's insert legend for this, because this one is activated. So low risk, medium risk, high risk hospitals, so we don't need this one. So low risk, let me change the, so you can remove the underscore. Low risk hospital or low exposure, medium exposure, and high risk, and other hospitals. Okay, or no risk hospitals, or other hospitals, no risk. Okay, now if you insert legend, so we can move this one and then preview and finish. So legend will be distance of the hospitals to the solid waste site. Okay, so then you can add all of the necessary information such as north arrow, scale bar, and title for your map, location of the hospitals that are at risk of exposure to the solid waste sites at different distances. Maybe you can specify the distance. So just some explanation that low risk means, so the distance from the hospitals to the solid waste site, to the nearest solid waste site, is less than 1 mile, and so you can just bring some information here, or you can add it to the legend of your map.